Hello again everybody and welcome back to Fujit's Blitz with me, Fujit. Hello, how's everybody doing and welcome back to my channel. So this video, what's it all about? It's about the Chinese light. Update 9.7 brought us a new light line in China along the Techtree. So they're free, they're not premium tanks. And this video we're going to look at each and every single one of them, go for every single parameter. So it's going to be a lengthy video. Not to worry, I've divided it up into chapters so you can skip along to the bits that you want to see or whatever. Don't feel obliged, to just roll through the whole video. If you only want to know about the tier 8 or the tier 9, for example, use the chapters in YouTube and that'll skip you ahead very nicely. Now the thing is, we've always had Chinese lights in the game. We have the Type 64 as a Chinese light. So Chinese lights are nothing new, to be honest with you. But these were eagerly anticipated and they sort of dropped with aplomb. I've heard a lot of people out there saying that, well, they're a little bit nasty, they're not great, they're disappointed. These are tanks that, well, to be honest with you, they can take or leave. So we're going to look into all of this and find out what is the real story behind the Chinese lights. So without any further ado, let's find out where you find them. Now, if we jump over to the Techtree, you will see that the Chinese lights fall off from the T34. And it starts at tier 6 with the Type 59 and goes all the way up to tier 10 with the WZ32-1. Now, we are going to focus, therefore, just on these light tanks. The 5916, the WZ131, the WZ132, the WZ132A, and the WZ1321. What is it with the Chinese and WZ followed by a shed load of numbers? Well, it just seems to be the way it is. So, I'm not going to go and do an in-depth review on each and every single tank. What I'm going to do is categorize them in two parts. From tier 6 to tier 8, they're all pretty much standard. And tier 9 introduces a new thing that we'll look at, which also the tier 10 has. Now, when I played all of these, I played them in the open test and I was like, yeah, they're okay. But the open test doesn't really give you proper battleground sort of scenarios. And then when I finally played them, admittedly on the opening day when they were released, well, we'll get into that. So let's have a look what they actually bring to the table. Update 9.7 has brought us, like I said, a new Techtree line. Well, basically it's the Chinese lights, and along with that we have 5 new tanks starting at tier 6, where we have the 5916. That's it there, and it bears a resemblance to the Type 59, although that is a medium. We then have the tier 7, the WZ131. Again, it bears a resemblance to, like a Type 59 type of tank. Moving to tier 8, we then have the WZ132. And you can see they all look pretty much the same. And those 3 tanks, oddly enough, they all have the same parameters. And they do not have this new thing called adaptive concealment. That starts at tier 9 with the WZ132A, and that's that one there. Finally, it ends up with the tier 10, which also has the adaptive camouflage in that, or adaptive concealment, sorry, and that's the WZ1321, the beastie at tier 10. Okay, so those are the 5 tanks we've now got in the game, but ultimate question, are they any good? Before we start looking at replays and start getting into the nitty-gritty, first and foremost, what is adaptive concealment? Because a lot of people seem to be a little bit confused over this one, me included. So here we have what's from the news in the game, and you can see there's an eyeball, which is red, and there's a new type of light bulb. What does that all mean? Well, the red eye basically tells you which tank has spotted you, and the new light bulb with the green arrow, it just gives you an indication a little bit sooner. So basically, what Wargaming is saying is this: after leaving the spotting range, any tank in the game generally becomes invisible in 10 seconds. During this time, an opponent can see you and still smack you. Boom, boom, boom. The adaptive concealment mechanic allows you to become completely invisible within 7 seconds, not the standard 10. That allows you to escape the enemy fire more quickly. Now, not all tanks, okay, have this ability to spot you within 10 seconds, for a period of 10 seconds. Some, like the T100LT, have the ability to spot you for a lot longer. And what it says here is, when a tracer shell, that some of the Soviet lights are equipped with, the adaptive concealment allows you to become invisible 17 seconds after that, rather than the standard 20. So all this does is cut down your timing, basically, that you're spotted. So effectively, all it does is reduce the spotting time by 3 seconds. But that's not all, because you've got these two icons, the red eye and this new light bulb. Well, the light bulb hasn't really changed, but this red icon shows you which tank has spotted you. And Wargaming's bumps say the standard light bulb normally appears with a 3-second delay. It actually does appear with like a 3-second delay. Whereas this red eyeball and this light bulb sort of comes out instantly you're spotted. And the red eyeball allows you to know who in fact has spotted you. So knowing who spotted you allows you to sort of tailor your game to an extent. The other thing that Wargaming say is that thanks to this icon, you've always know which opponents have spotted you, which means it will be easy for you to disappear from the enemy's view range. Now, aside from that, this adaptive concealment doesn't really do anything. It reduces your spotting time from 10 seconds to 7 seconds, or 20 or 17 seconds instead of 20, and it tells you who spotted you. You know, whilst that may be an interesting mechanic, when I get into the replays, you will see that, well, it's not always the best thing to have. So that's this new mechanic. It's only available on the tier 9 and the tier 10. And a lot of people have been like a bit scratching their heads over this one, me included. So that's the boring stuff out of the way. You'll be happy to hear. We've now seen where the tanks are coming from, which tier they start at, what the names of the tanks are, how many there are, and also what this adaptive concealment actually is. So let's have a look at some replays, starting with the tier 6, the 5916. Let's start at the very beginning. This is the 5916, the tier 6 light tank that is now being introduced. Now the thing about this tank is, wow, it's got some interesting stats. On paper, it actually has not bad DPM, 1,781. That's better than the VK28. Not as good as the Chaffee or the T37. However, it has pretty decent alpha damage. This thing knocks out 170. Most of the other lights knock out 160. But it has pretty bad penetration, only 132 millimeters. It's got a pretty good aim time at 1.2 seconds. All the others are over 1.5 seconds, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, with the VK28 at 2 seconds. It has no gun depression. 5 degrees is pretty pants, and it is the worst light tank in that respect. It's got pretty decent speed. It will outperform a Chaffee, but it will not outperform the VK. And for me, it feels sluggish to get off the mark. It feels very difficult to get the power from the engine to the tracks very quickly. But once you get up to speed, it's pretty decent. There's not really much stopping it. What are the downsides to this tank? Well, there's quite a few. Firstly, it has absolutely zero armor. And I mean zero. On the front of the turret, it's only 38 millimeters. That's right. On the sides, 28 millimeters. And on the rear, it's only 20 millimeters. And the hull is even weaker. So this thing really is paper thin. We then look at the view range. Well, the view range is about 284 meters. That's if you've got a full crew. You've got all the crew unlocking everything. And you put all the super duper consumables on it. And you have the optics. Without all of that, the view range drops down quite significantly. Its concealment, not too bad. When stationary or moving, it's 59%. Upon firing, however, it's 13%. Not bad, really, when you consider light tanks. I mean, they should be around the 50, 55, 60% mark. DPM, as I said, is 1,700. Seems a bit sluggish, but it's actually not. It's better than that VK, as I say. And As a whole, is this a true light tank? Well, this is the thing. These Chinese lights, all of them pretty much have the same parameters, are a bit of a hybrid between being a light tank and a medium. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically it has the disadvantages of a light tank, no armor, and it has the disadvantages of a medium tank, no mobility. And this is one of the problems with these tanks. They're a unique style of play and they take some getting used to. Once you get used to them, you will understand that these are ambush tanks. These are not meant to brawl. They're not meant to be on the front line. They're meant to poke around a corner like this, put a shot up the backside of the KB2, maybe a second one just for luck, and then run away. And that is what they're meant to be doing. They're meant to be playing that type of role. They are not meant to be brawling, okay? And they will not do things like the T100 LT. So don't even think about it. Play them restrictively, conservatively, nurture them, ease them in, use them effectively for what they're designed to do. Keep them out of harm's way and only move up when absolutely necessary, because you will get hurt. It's as simple as that. But that's 5916. It's not a bad tier 6. Would I take it over the VK28? Probably not. But it's an interesting tank. It's that hybrid, as I said. And with wargaming kind of amalgamating lights in meds in the MMQ, it makes sense. We did 2k there, destroyed 2, did some damage assist, and we got a second class for our troubles. Not the best game in the world, but not the worst either. I'm quite happy with that, considering I only got a 75% crew. So, yeah, it could have been worse, it could have been better. And I'm even more happy when 2 of the team scored 0. There you go. Anyway, that's the tier 6. Let's have a look at the tier 7. So jumping into the tier 7, the WZ131. This one has a similar playstyle to the 5916, the tier 6 version. Now, a couple of things about this tank. On paper, it's not too bad. Its DPM is pretty nice. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. It does outperform the SP1C, but is outperformed by the Bulldog, the LTTB, and the LTG, respectively. So with 2,337 DPM, it's okay, it's reasonable. Penetration's pretty good, 155. Okay, the SP1C is better, and so is the M41 Bulldog, but it's better than the Soviet lights, not going to lie. Alpha damage is one of the best, with this little Chinese light churning out 210. Okay, the SP1C beats it with 225, but it beats the others hands down, and I've purposely left out any autoloaders here. The rate of fire is not too bad. Its reload, 5.39 seconds. That's not too bad either. It's about average. And, you know, it's not too bad as a tank. Aim time, pretty decent, 1.42 seconds. That's better than any other of the lights in the tier, to be fair. Where does it struggle? Well, again, it struggles with that armor. 45mm on the front, both turret and hull. 36 on the side of the turret, 30mm on the side of the hull. 20 on the rear of the turret, 25mm on the rear of the hull. Again, the view range, 262 meters. Not too bad, not too shabby. Drops a little bit in its camouflage and concealment from the tier 6. This one is down to 55% moving and stationary, and 12% when firing. So we've got some work to play on this one. Top speed, again, it's a pretty fast beast. Churns up to 64 kilometers an hour top speed. However, like that tier 6, it seems to take quite a while for that power to be transferred from the engine to that drive sprocket, and it's very sluggish on the go. So again, this one, pretty much like we saw with the 5916, it's a hybrid. It's not strictly a light and it's not strictly a medium. It's that amalgamation of the two. And if you play this one along the same lines as you would play, say, the Walker Bulldog, again, that's another tank that sits in the light category, but realistically plays a hybrid role because it doesn't have the similar mobility that you would get with, say, an LTTB. This is the same type of thing. You've got to give it some TLC, you've got to nurture it, you've got to be conservative. And if you do that, you'll have fun, as you saw there. Okay, we're not setting the world on fire. We do, what, just shy of 2,000 damage, we take 3 kills, we assist, we get a second class for our troubles and a crucial contribution, which is nice. And, you know, that's the thing about these tanks. I mean, again, you have to remember, I'm playing some of these stock. I'm playing them without massive crew updated, so I've got that going for it as well. And I would strongly advise any of you out there, do not play these tanks stock. They are just terrible. Anyway, that's the tier 6 and the tier 7. Let's go and have a look at that tier 8. Hopping now into the tier 8 Chinese light. This one is the WZ132. And again, we'll look at the paper and then we'll compare it and everything else. DPM, not that great. 2,250. That is worse than the RU251 and the FE301, but it is marginally better than the T54 lightweight. Penetration, it's not the worst, but it's not the best. It's outdone by the FE301, but it does beat the others hands down. It has 194 pen. It has decent alpha damage, however. Beats all the others hands down, 300. Okay, I'm not comparing it to the T49. Why would I? That's just crazy. Rate of fire, 7.5 rounds a minute. I mean, that's not too bad. With a reload time of 8 seconds. That is pretty lengthy when you consider that the likes of the FE301 has only got 4 and a bit. Aim time, again, it's the best, 1.3 seconds. The others are around the 1.7 mark, with the T54 lightweight coming in at just under 2 seconds. Again, no depression. 5 degrees is the standard, and you know, you've got to like it and lump it, guys. Speed, well, again, this one, like the other two lights, is sluggish. You will get 64 kilometers top speed out of it, but it takes an age to get there. And that, again, is one of its Achilles heels. You're not going to be running around the map like a crazy thing like you would in an RU251, so don't think about it. But the thing is, when this does get up to speed, it is a beaut of a tank, to be perfectly honest with you. Again, like the other light tanks in the Techtree for China, it's got absolutely poor armor. It is a paper bag, literally, on a set of tracks. There's nothing going on with it. Now, camouflage. Now, according to Blitz stars, this only has a camo rating of 23%, which kind of makes sense because it does seem pretty bad. But according to Blitz Wargaming, this has a camo profile of 46% stationary when moving. Now, I'm more inclined to believe World of Tanks Wargaming rather than Blitz stars, to be honest with you. But I do feel that in some respects, these aren't the best camo profiles out there for a light tank. And you may be better off sticking a camo net on some of them, to be perfectly honest with you. But therein belies your next problem. They haven't got the best view range either. This one's got 269 meters. That's okay, but it's not massive. And that's with optics. So if you use a camo net, you've got to take the optics off. So, you know, it's trading one for the other. And you have to work out what are you going to play it for. And on the grounds I'm telling you, these aren't strictly light tanks as such. You may want to sacrifice those optics for that camo net. Get your camo profile up, because whilst you'll be doing spotting in this, it's going to take you an age to roll away, and you need to roll away. Anyway, we did okay there. Just under 1,500 in damage. Not brilliant, not fantastic, but it was one of the first games I rolled out in. Again, very, very 70% crew, I think, 75% crew. We get a third class. We destroyed one tank. We had a bit of a fun time, and that's the idea. And like the others, I'm playing it in this hybrid role. Not quite a light, not quite a medium. And that way I'm having more success. So, those are the ones that don't have the active concealment. Let's jump into that tier 9. Well, that's where we first find this active concealment, and let's talk about the tier 9 and how that one plays. Moving to the tier 9, the WZ132A. This is the first of the Chinese tank lights that has this adaptive concealment. And what does all that mean? Well, you have to go back in the video and find out about that. So what's this one like? Well, this one on paper is fantastic. It's got the best DPM, better than the Vickers Cruiser, better than the Object 84. It's got decent penetration. Not as good as the Vickers Cruiser, but certainly better than the Object 84. Rate of fire, not as good as the Vickers, but better than the Object. Reload, not as good as the Vickers. But this thing has a stonkingly good aim time yet again, 1.2 seconds. Again, only 5 degrees of gun depression. It's Chinese. It's a light tank and it's a Chinese tank. They always have terrible, terrible gun depression. Now you can see this adaptive concealment kicking in. The red eyes and the light bulb with the arrow. What does it actually mean? Well, as I said earlier, it means that you're now going to be spotted for 7 seconds instead of 10. And you can see who spotted you, basically. So it allows you to sort of move around the map and get out of harm's way. Aside from that, it doesn't do anything spectacular. It's not like the Soviet lights, whereby you hit somebody and they stay spotted by everybody for 20 seconds, double the amount of time that you would normally stay spotted. What about the speed on this thing? Well, again, it's very sluggish off the ground, but once it gets up there, boy, it's a mover. 65 kilometers going forwards. Again, no armor. Absolutely zero armor on these things. None of them have got good armor. View range now with the optics and everything is up to 302 meters. That is nice. That is good. And it's comparable to all the other lights. Now again, BlitzStars is saying that the camo profile in this is only 24%. Moving and stationary, and 5% after shot. Whereas Wargaming are saying it's 48%. Moving and stationary, and 11% after shot. Again, I'm defaulting to Wargaming. Although, I do have a suspicion that the camo profile on these things aren't exactly great. And again, it's up to you whether you want to use a camo net or not. Personally, I don't think the tank's that bad. Again, it's one of these very unique playstyles. You can't rush out headlong in this thing. You are going to get hurt. So you've got to be careful with it, guys. You really, really have. But you can have fun in it. Play it with that hybrid motion in mind frame, light and medium at the same time, and you'll have a lot more fun with it, believe me. So that's the tier 9. What about the tier 10? Last but by no means least, we have the tier 10, the WZ132-1. Now again, this one, let's look at it on paper. According to BlitzStars Tank Compare, where I've shoved it against the Vickers Light and the T100 LT, this has better DPM. 3,562 this one will churn out compared to the Vickers at 3,238 and the T100 LT at 3,016. It has bad penetration though. 230, the Vickers has 250 and the T100 has 240. It doesn't have the best alpha damage. Admittedly, it's better than the T100, but it's not as good as the Vickers. It has a reasonable reload, 5.5 seconds. That's better than the Vickers, better than the T100. And it has a better rate of fire. Now, like the other Chinese tanks in the light line, it also has a stonkingly great aim time, which, comparing to the fact that these are Chinese tanks, is pretty good. It has the standard 5 degrees, but firstly, the aim time is 1.18 seconds. That is amazing. As I said, the gun depression is still only 5 degrees. It's still Chinese, and it's still got no gun depression. Speed, well, again, this one on paper will churn out 67 kilometers an hour. That's its top speed. And again, it feels sluggish. It feels that it takes its time to get that power down to that drive sprocket. That is faster, however, than the Vickers, funnily enough. It doesn't feel like that in the heat of the battle. It doesn't feel like you can run away. And the reason it doesn't feel that way is because, as I said, it just takes a lot of time, or it appears to take a lot of time, to get that power down into those wheels and onto those tracks. Aside from that, it's again pretty much copy and paste what we've seen with the others. It's also got this adaptive concealment, and you can see the red light there on the VK72. It's the VK72 who spotted me. So it allows me to make maneuvers, to reset, bearing in mind I've only got 7 seconds this time. Oh, I get spotted straight away though. But I've got 7 seconds rather than 10, so okay, 3 seconds is quite nice, to be honest with you. It also has a 302 meter view range. That's with the optics and with the crew crewed out. Now again, BlitzStars is telling me it only has 31% stationary and moving, and only 7% after shot on its camo profile. Yet Wargaming are telling me it's 55% and 12%. Again, I'm defaulting to Wargaming stats here. Although, to be honest with you, it does feel that the camo profile on these tanks is a little bit sort of weird and wonderful. I don't feel that there is camouflage as they should be, so to speak. And again, it's up to you. Do you want to shove a camo note on it, or do you want to take those optics? How are you going to play it? I mean, this one, you're starting to be a little bit more... aiming towards the light rather than the medium side, to be honest with you, because it does have a good turn of speed, even though it is slow off the blocks. But again, you've got to be careful with this one. It's not one of those tanks. It's not forgiving. It's got 0 armor again. I mean, the armor profile is just terrible. It's got 140 millimeters on its front of the turret, but only 50 on the hull. I mean, 50 millimeters. Everybody is literally going to smack you from here to Kingdom Come. There's nothing you can do about that. Now, look, we've churned out 2.5k in this battle. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Unfortunately, I fluffed the shot on the VK because whilst it has pretty okay penetration, I told you it's got the worst penetration for the light, only 230. So I bounced the front. I should have loaded Pramo, my bad. I could have probably taken the VK, but alas, it wasn't to be. Thankfully, the Minotauro saves the day. He takes out the VK and he finally, he finally takes out the Type 71, which is nice. So I just fast forwarded that bit and you'll see the Minotauro wrecking the Type 71. There we go. It's all over. So we ended up doing just over 3k. I did have another replay with just under 4.5k, but that was a loss, unfortunately. It was me against 3, and unfortunately I just couldn't fend off a half-health, well, full-health IS-7 and a full-health STB-1. But we did give it a bash. And because it was a loss, I decided not to show it. But this is not too shabby. We got a first class for our troubles. You know, we did okay. It goes to show what the tank can do. So there you have it. That is the Chinese lights from 6 all the way through to 10. So that's the lights. That's what they're like, guys. I mean, they're not too bad. They could be better. They could be worse. I know a lot of players out there are a bit of an anti-climax on this one. But in all honesty, you know, they're not broken, they're not OP, they bring something new to the game. I mean, this, okay, a big deal has been made of this adaptive concealment. It just knocks seconds off your time and allows you to see who spotted you so you can run away. Aside from that, I mean, they're pretty mediocre. The good players will make them sing, of course they will, because that's what good players do. All good players make their tanks sing. But the fact of the matter remains that these tanks, they're not the easiest tanks to play against or play with. And it's going to take some time to get used to them. They have a unique playstyle. I admit, on the day that they were released, I rolled out all of them, and I was underwhelmed, to be honest with you. I wasn't over-impressed with them. I didn't think they were great tanks. They've sort of grown on me a little bit, if I'm being honest, but at the moment, they're not going to be my go-to light tank. Let me put it that way. I'm still going to be jumping into, you know, the likes of a Vickers or a T100LT. Why would I not? I mean, the T100 and the Vickers, they've both got pretty good armor, pretty accurate guns, and mobility. I mean, why wouldn't I go with them? All because these tanks have 7 seconds of being spotted rather than 10. I mean, 3 seconds, okay, it could make a difference, but when you've got the mobility of the T100LT and the Vickers, you don't need that 3 seconds. You can get a hard dodge pretty quickly. Anyway, that has been an overview of the Chinese lights. I've been Fujit. By all means, comment on everything below. That's what the comments are there for. And until the next time, guys, stay safe out there. Have fun on the battlefield and happy tanking, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Having fun, being happy.